So this adventure started in Mexico City in 1956. My mother was working at the British Embassy as assistant to the British ambassador, and my father did night duty, and his code name was Rembrandt. So she would work in the day there and he would work at night. He'd paint in the day in his studio at our apartment, and Mama would be at the office in the day. I used to have my birthdays in the Embassy Garden, and it was there that they prepared the exhibition for the Hanover Gallery in London. He was supposed to, he decided that he wanted to have that exhibition, and in order to prepare it, to do this journey through South America and part of Africa. And it took 2 years for them to prepare it. I was going to the French Lycée and my little brother was not in school yet. It came together actually quite well. At the first part of the journey through Central America, we didn't have a Land Rover. Like I mentioned, it was any mode of transportation we could organize. But they were incredibly adventurous. I mean, my mother probably more so than my father, although they were both in sync in terms of their ideas. My mother had been brought up as in Hastings. They both were from Hastings, the town that had the Battle of Hastings in 1066. And they were eccentric. They were the eccentric part of the family. My father was a painter. My mother was studied piano, and she had really wanted to be a dancer, and her parents wouldn't allow that, so she became a pianist, and they sent her to secretarial school. So it was something that stood very handily for her, because all through the journey she was able to get jobs as a secretary, or things like that would earn money for us to go on to the next place. And Frederick was this eccentric man, also a jack of all trades. I mean, he could photograph and film, and in fact he did make several documentaries and took like 10,000 photographs of our journey. And they invented life, and I learned something from my mother that was later so invaluable, because they were going through territories that they didn't know anything about, and we'd get to one border after another, and there was always some kind of hitch or problem. And my mother's modus operandi was, well, if everything didn't go well, the last resort was cry. And that always worked. So I learned from my mother that any scrap I got into, I could cry and get myself out of it. And boy, did that work like a charm. And she had this great sense of humor. I'll never forget, we were arriving to Bolivia, and we were up in the high Andes, and it was dusk, and both my brother and I were a bit exhausted from all the hours in the Land Rover traveling. And we saw Bolivia is in a crater, and we saw the little lights of the crater, and my mother, sensing that we were a little bit restless and wondering when the hell we were going to get to where we were supposed to be, and she said, "Oh, look at those little lights down there." And I don't know why my brother and I thought that was so funny, and it broke our tension, and we were able to continue the journey into La Paz that way. And about La Paz in particular, it's one of the highest capital cities of Bolivia in South America. And because of the altitude, the oxygen is very rare, and you have trouble breathing. And we noticed that people were going up the stairs backwards, and we asked why. And because when you walk up the stairs backwards, you use less energy, and so you use less oxygen. And little things like that we learned along the journey, that really served very much to how we were going to manage our life later on when we grew up. And yeah, this is a little story, and maybe you have some questions or ideas, and I'd love to hear them.